Welcome Nick Lee from the Edible Schoolyard to share teaching, reflection through cooking, strategies from the Cooking with Curiosity curriculum. Welcome, Nick. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. And thank you for that really beautiful intention setting. My name is Nick Lee. I'm with the Edible Schoolyard Project. I'm the Senior Program Manager, and I just want to say it's so great to be here. So great to see all of you, and welcome. I'm joined by two of my colleagues here today who are going to be helping present, and they are Raquel Vigil, who I'm lucky to work with. She and I have co-designed the Edible Ed at Home curriculum, which is a series of curriculum resources in response to the pandemic. So, hi, Raquel.
Hi, everyone. Excited to be with you all today.
And also joining me is Russell Sturton, who is our community manager, and he's also our tech wizard at the Edible Schoolyard and takes care of our website. So thanks for being here, Russell.
Of course. Yeah. Good morning, everybody.
Really quickly, our agenda for the next 50 minutes. Our plan is to do a little Who's in the Room activity, which we'll get into in just a minute. I'm looking forward to. Then we're going to talk about reflection as a tool for building self-efficacy, how the practice of reflection can help students see their own belief in themselves increase. After that, we'll talk a bit about Cooking with Curiosity, which is a kitchen curriculum that Raquel led the development of and that we released just a few months ago. It's a curriculum designed for middle school, also definitely adaptable to upper elementary, and definitely scalable up to high school and post-secondary as well. And then we'll actually do an activity from that curriculum that involves you getting a piece of pen and paper and doing some reflection on some of your own cooking. So you'll get to do some of this curriculum in this session. And then finally, we'll have a small breakout discussion where you'll talk about your experience of doing that reflection and also think about how you can use reflection in your own teaching. Some of our essential questions for today are, what is self-efficacy and what is reflection? And then we're also just going to really look into what is Cooking with Curiosity and how can you access it. We want everyone to leave this session knowing how to get those free curriculum resources that we've made available. Really quickly about the Edible Schoolyard Project. We're celebrating our 25th anniversary this year, and we were founded by the chef and owner of Chez Panisse restaurant, Alice Waters, who we're really lucky to have joining our first partner, Jennifer Siebel-Newsome, this afternoon. At our campus in Berkeley, all 1,000 students at that public middle school come through the kitchen and garden about 10 times a year and have cooking and gardening classes that are interwoven with their science and history classes. We've also recently expanded and are building programming in after-school programs in Stockton, California. And in the past year, in the wake of the pandemic, we've really been focusing on developing new curriculum resources and making those accessible to teachers across the country and leading online digital events and trainings for teachers and educators to collaborate, share best practices, and adapt to teaching in this moment. So to start, I want to land on kind of a common definition for reflection and for self-efficacy. Reflection is the practice of looking at and considering your own thoughts. And that can happen in many ways, that can look many ways, but just examining your own thoughts, analyzing something after the fact, that's the process of reflection. And self-efficacy is the belief that you can do something. It's tied and it's related to confidence, but it's distinct from confidence. And so we're really looking to boost our students' self-efficacy, their sense that they can accomplish things. And that's something that we really try to center in all of our education work at the Edible Schoolyard. And we see reflection as a really valuable practice for supporting students to build their self-efficacy. And to talk more about how reflection supports learners, I'm going to pass it over to Raquel.
Awesome. Thanks, Nick. Yeah, and as Nick sort of was talking about, we really believe as Edible Schoolyard Project that reflection, as we said, supports learners, right? They support students in your classroom to be able to understand the content that you're teaching, to engage in the subjects that you're excited about that you're presenting to them. It also gives an opportunity for students to really situate the learning within their lives. It's by asking and posing questions about their opinions, their thoughts, their feelings, they're able to bring so much of their lived experience into the classroom when you take the time to ask them to reflect about not only the content, but what the sort of content and subject that you're teaching is bringing up for them. And really that, again, reflection, when you design reflection, that offers multiple entry points in how students can answer certain questions. It allows for the differentiation of supporting all learners. And so we really believe and firmly believe that reflection is a process to support learners to be able to be in the classroom as their full selves.
Awesome. And one of the other things that I see reflection supporting students to do and to process is to examine what they're comparing something to. And this happens often in the kitchen, where a student creates a dish, they've cooked something, and they look at it and they're initially unsatisfied with it. And often that's based on comparisons to things they've seen in the media. They're comparing it to what they've seen on the Food Network, or what they've seen on their YouTubers, their favorite YouTubers' cooking channel. And through the process of reflection, with guided reflection, asking them what they're comparing their own dish to, they can recognize that that's not really a fair comparison or a standard that they should be judging themselves on. And they can become more satisfied and more accepting of their own result, of the outcome of their own cooking. Reflection can also prompt students to examine kind of the what ifs that they're doing in their head. We often do a lot of counterfactual thinking, imagining something that isn't true. I wish that my pizza was more round and it was more beautiful. And that's really easy to do. And then you're judging your own pizza compared to that imaginary better one. But we don't often do what's called the downward counterfactual thinking. We don't often imagine the worst thing that could have happened, right? I don't often look at my pizza and say, that's a really beautiful pizza. I'm so glad that I didn't have the hole in my pizza fall out and it be stuck and burnt to a crisp in the oven. And I'm not saying we should encourage students to do that downward counterfactual thinking and think about what could have happened worse, but it's useful to put that in context for students and help them see when they are imagining what could have been better and comparing what they did to what could have been better. And again, this is about helping students recognize and understand their own successes in the kitchen. So that's some of the ways that we see reflection as being a really valuable process to support learners. And Raquel, I see you want to add something there.
Yeah, I just want to also just add the piece about, in addition to supporting learners, I think it's a really helpful tool, like reflection and reflection practices, to inform your practices as an educator. I think a lot of reflection, a lot of ways in which you integrate reflection can be really useful formative assessments, right? So the ways in which you're able to track and get to know exactly what your students are learning, what they're experiencing. And that really offers such a wealth of information and knowledge in how you shape and design your own curriculum. And I think because our students are our best, gauge of what's going well and how and what ways can we improve on our practices.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, reflection helps us see what students are learning, what is working for students, and where, if there's a lesson that's fallen flat and none of the students have gotten it, you'll see that when they reflect on it and you get nothing close to what you were expecting. So with that, that's a lot of us talking about why we value reflection so much and why we think it's such a useful strategy for supporting students. And what I want to hear from all of you is, what are some of the ways that you prompt students to reflect? What does reflection look like? What happens to make students unlock all of those benefits of reflection? And so I actually want to get a discussion going in the chat here, which is, how do you prompt students to reflect? And what are different ways to engage in reflection? So go ahead and add some answers to the chat. If you don't work with students directly, what are some of the ways that you reflect? How do you process and look back on your own thinking? And we'll just take a minute with this in the chat here. So go ahead and get your answers going. I see somebody writing journaling as a way to prompt reflection. Absolutely. Inviting students to use their 5 senses. Yes, thank you for that, Amy. Tamara, think, pair, shares, absolutely. That's a staple of reflection in the classroom. Carrie, giving an example or showing an emotion or a feeling and asking students if they felt that way, giving them something to identify with and then helping them see that. Absolutely. Lainey, thank you for pointing out that NGSS and the engineering cycle are inherently reflective. That's wonderful. Nick, using sentence frames. Yes. Janelle, incorporating more mindful eating. So practice of being present. Absolutely. Oh, wow. There's 16 more messages below where I've scrolled. This is amazing. Thank you all for adding so many things here. Ask for feedback, taste surveys. Yes, such a simple way of getting student feedback and asking them to reflect on what they thought of a dish, but so important. Tracy, thank you for adding that, drawing a picture of their experience. Yeah, reflection can happen in so many different modalities, right? We don't want to just have reflection be written word on paper. We know that's not the way that some people think best and the way that feels most natural. So providing options in the mode of engagement and reflection is really important practice. Thank you, Tracy. Awesome. This is wonderful. Lynn writing, reflect on experiences of a personal healthy diet, such as eating more fruits and vegetables. And I think that brings up a great point, that reflection can have so many different aims, right? You can have different learning goals that reflection can support. It can be about nutrition education, or it can be about learning hard skills in the kitchen, but reflection can support any of those types of learning. Okay. Food and mood journals. Thank you for that, Hank. This is wonderful. Thank you all. So moving from that, I want to actually talk a bit about Cooking with Curiosity. And Cooking with Curiosity is a curriculum that supports cooking skill development through reflection and through choice-based recipes. It's available to everyone at no cost. It is completely free and it's downloadable on our website. Russell's going to lead us through a kind of tour of our website in a little bit, so you'll actually see how to get to these curriculum resources, how to download those. Cooking with Curiosity is 4 units, and each unit is kind of centered around a couple of core kitchen skills, and then features recipes that have students practice those skills, and then all of the recipes are also choice-based and flexible. And that's another piece that we really wanted to design in to support student agency and helping them create and craft their own recipes. And really, reflection is kind of woven throughout the curriculum in a really exciting way. It was something that we designed into it from the heart. And that's something I think Raquel can talk about best.
Yeah. You know, I think, again, this curriculum was created to really adapt for distance learning. It kind of emerged from a suite of lessons that Nick and I created for Edible Ed at Home. And we really wanted to take some time to actually develop a full comprehensive curriculum. And so that's why there's sort of 4 units. It's an intro unit, a sort of final project, all the sort of components of a curriculum that you might find. And so we really, when we sort of thought about the ways in which we couldn't be in our kitchen classrooms, it really actually opened up so much possibility for the other things we know to be true about engaging with cooking that maybe we didn't take the time in our kitchen classrooms to prioritize. And one of those things is we sort of talked about what those different practices or different kinds of experiences were. We started to really see the ways in which reflection was such a key component of the things that we really felt was very powerful about the kitchen classroom. So we sort of took this as an opportunity to sort of, in adapting for distance learning, really thinking about the ways in which we wanted to create recipes that were flexible, but also take the time to not have a cooking curriculum that's solely on executing a recipe, but that really explored so many different other parts of cooking. And so that's part of why sort of reflection became this sort of anchor piece, and we ended up sort of weaving through it as a really important kind of objective and outcome of the curriculum is to provide so many different opportunities for students to reflect on their experiences in the kitchen, but also to think about their relationship with food and relationship with recipes. And so hopefully you'll see that throughout a lot of the curriculum. And the other piece I do want to say about our curriculum is that it was designed both as sort of seeing it as a sequence, right? Sort of one lesson follows the other, but really also we wanted to create lessons that could also sort of stand on their own. And so even if, we really love it when educators sort of pick and choose what makes sense for them. We see the sequence, but we invite educators to take what makes sense for them, even if it's one lesson here or one lesson there.
Absolutely. Yeah, so even though this is a suite of about 35 lessons, you can pick the top 2 that make sense for you in your classroom and use those. I see there's a question about what grade level this is for, and it's written with middle school in mind, as again, that's our primary place where we teach, but it is absolutely applicable to upper elementary. Some of the activities absolutely scale down to, kindergarten through 2nd grade as well. And I want to say we have had teachers contact us who are using this in kindergarten classrooms and teachers who are using this in high school culinary CTE classrooms. And both of them actually had the same favorite activity, which is the kitchen reflection wheel, which we're going to talk more about in a second. I want to note that a lot of the recipes feature California specialty crops. We have a whole lesson on roasting vegetables. That's all about different California specialty crops that can go into roasted vegetables. So if you're looking for ways to use those California specialty crops, check out some of the recipes here for great ideas. The other thing that I want to mention is that the final project in this is one that I really love. This was something that Raquel designed, and it was an opportunity for students to choose a food that's important to them. They kind of go through a process of reflecting on recipes of meaning, foods that have special meaning for them. And then they get to do a final project on exploring that food, actually talking to an elder and learning more about that food, examining some of the ingredients in that food and where they come from and what those ingredients mean as well. And I think this is a great example of a way of creating culturally responsive curriculum that draws upon the knowledge of students and centers their cultural experiences in the classroom and allows them to create their own journey of learning. And so I think that, we've had a lot of great discussions so far in this conference about equity and food justice and the ways that the food education needs to be relevant and centered in students' own lived experiences. And I think that having a final project that allows them to choose what they're going to cook and make it their own is just another example of that. So that's a lot about Cooking with Curiosity and why we love it. And now I want to actually turn it over to Russell so that he can show you how to access it, how to find it. And so Russell is going to lead us in a screen share on our website and show you how to get to these materials.
Great. Thanks so much, Nick. And hey, everybody, just want to say another good morning. So yeah, so I'll be taking the next 3 to 4 minutes to provide a quick tour of our website. And so hopefully everybody can see my screen here. I'm on www.edibleschoolyard.org. And this is the first landing page that you get to when you type in that address. And right up here, we've set up this click here to find edible education resources for the home classroom. And so this is going to be your quickest access point to Cooking with Curiosity. So I'll go ahead and demonstrate clicking here. And so here I am on the edible education for the home classroom page. We have an overview of our intention behind the cooking edible education at home curriculum as a whole. And then right here is Cooking with Curiosity. And here are buttons where you can view the different units of Cooking with Curiosity. And so I'll go ahead and click on this view unit 1. So what happens now is a new tab will open. And here I am on the Cooking with Curiosity unit 1 page. We provide a summary of unit 1. We also provide links to see the full curriculum overview, the unit 1 scope and sequence. Subscribe to our newsletter, as that's where we will be sending out additional updates with new resources. Here are links to the other units. And then here below are the individual lesson links for this first unit of Cooking with Curiosity. And so then if I click on one of these links, I'll click on Kitchen Reflection Wheel here. And then that opens up this lesson page. And we have different like tags that show sort of the different content areas that this lesson addresses. We have a summary of this individual lesson, student learning goals and objectives. And then here at the download lesson materials section is where you'll be able to access the lesson itself. And so I'll go ahead and click on this, and that opens up a new tab. And then here is the full individual lesson with, in this case, it's the kitchen reflection wheel lesson. And so scrolling down, this is to provide a quick preview. And this is where the actual content of this lesson is located. And so now I'll actually go back to this, go back to the website here, because the additional point that I wanted to make is in terms of navigating between individual lessons and going back to that unit page, we have links at the top here where you can click on this to go back to where I was before, that Cooking with Curiosity Unit 1. And additionally, if I go to resources and then resource library, I wanted to share that this is an additional place where you can see not only Cooking with Curiosity, but our entire collection of lessons. And here on the left is a search menu where you can type in different keywords with finding lessons. And also here is a filter menu so that you can select different criteria for types of lessons that you're looking for. And the resource library will automatically repopulate with those different lessons. So for example, if I was looking for lessons designed for distance learning, I would click here, and then the resource library would reload to show me all the lessons in the library that are tagged for distance learning. I can also mix and match different tags. So I could go to edible education topic. Here's a whole submenu of options. And I'll click on one of these. I'll click on culturally relevant and responsive curriculum. And then the resource library reloads again to show both lessons that are tagged with both distance learning and culturally relevant and responsive curriculum here. And the last thing that I wanted to quickly share is I mentioned about briefly subscribing to our newsletter, and I see someone did subscribe earlier, and thank you. So we recommend subscribing to our newsletter, as that's the best place to keep in the loop in terms of new resources and curriculum that we are creating, as well as just general updates and events and trainings that we're organizing. And so highly encourage anyone who's interested to provide or just subscribe to our newsletter. That's going to be the best place to stay in the loop with any new updates from us and resources and trainings. And to get to the subscribe, it's at the bottom of our website where it says subscribe here. And I know this was a quick whirlwind tour of the website. And if there's any questions, we welcome you to reach out to us. I think, Nick, you have the email that folks can reach out to us best. And also, of course, this session is being recorded, so you can return to this as a refresher. So thank you.
Yeah. Oh, can we just add one more thing? If we go back to the overview, I just wanted to point out that there's a full curriculum overview. I think someone had a question maybe about, I think Barbara, you had a question about evaluating. So I just wanted to point that out because, in designing it, the scope and sequence in the curriculum overview really provides sort of the rationale for the curriculum and a lot of the other pieces around kind of what motivated the learning, which can also sort of indicate some of the standards that we align the curriculum to, our kind of core learning strategies, as well as sort of our sort of statement around formative and summative assessments. Just wanted to point that out as a document that's really great for you as the educator to sort of go through to see sort of how we design this curriculum.
Thank you, Russell, for that tour, and thanks, Raquel, for highlighting that. As Russell mentioned, if you have any questions, if you're using these materials and want to tell us how it's going, just reach out to us. You can write us at learning learning@edibleschoolyard.org, and that email gets to the three of us. So please shoot us an email at learning@edibleschoolyard.org if you have questions, if you just want to chat through it a little bit, if you have stories of using it. We're about halfway through our presentation, a little bit more than, and I just want to note that this halfway mark has been mostly us talking, and the second half will be more of you doing and talking. I just want to pause to name that. And what we're going to do next is dive into the kitchen reflection wheel. And we're going to talk about it briefly, and then you're going to get to do it. So the kitchen reflection wheel is one of the kind of anchor lessons. It's the second lesson in Cooking with Curiosity, and it's something that we encourage teachers and students to return to after every cooking, after every time that they cook within this curriculum. So the kitchen reflection wheel, I'm going to go ahead and pull up a screen share right now, and it's got some prompts on it, but don't do the prompts just yet. So this is the kitchen reflection wheel here. And I think Raquel can tell you a little bit more about that kitchen reflection wheel.
Yeah, again, as we mentioned before, that reflection really shows up in many different places, utilizing many different instructional practices throughout the curriculum. But in particular, we really love this tool because it was really designed to be to serve multi-purpose uses. As in, we really see that being something that, and we recommend in the curriculum that you use 5 minutes, take 5 minutes to sort of spin the wheel, students can answer the question, or do a sort of think, pair, share, and students can take 10 minutes and share with each other to the extent that some educators have even used it for 30, 60-minute lessons. We really love that it could really serve that, right? That the thing about reflection, it doesn't have to be something that takes a lot of time in your instruction. It could be something that you build slowly. Maybe you first start 5 minutes with students to use the reflection wheel, that they just spin it once and then extend it to where they use it a little bit more. And we also really love sort of the feedback from educators saying that when they started using the reflection wheel, it started to deepen students' reflections themselves, right? Initially, before they used it, it was kind of a one-word answers, but it actually allowed students to sort of take a minute to pause to really consider different things, and it developed some real deep thinking for the students.
So with that, rather than tell you more about it, I want you to experience it. And so again, we have students do this right after they finished cooking something, and we haven't gotten to share a cooking experience together right now. I wish that we could, but in lieu of that, think about what is the most recent thing that you cooked, or a recent cooking project that didn't turn out well. If there was something that you cooked recently and you were kind of disappointed with it, that would be a good one to look at. Or something that you haven't cooked before, that was your first time cooking something new to you. And just think about that moment of cooking, think about that food that you cooked for a little while. And actually what we're gonna do is take 5 minutes of camera off. I'm gonna put on some music, and I encourage you to grab a pen and paper or open up a blank Word document and spend some time answering some of these questions. So challenges, what challenges did you encounter? Did you ask for help? Do you want to make this dish again? Would you use the same recipe? How does it look? Are you comparing it to something else? And I know it can be a little difficult to read the ones that are upside down here, but we have the students actually make a physical copy of this wheel so they can spin it. So crane your neck and look at it as best you can, and go ahead and turn your camera off. I'll put some music on and I'll call us back together in about 5 minutes. So again, just answering some of these questions, thinking about something that you cooked recently. Okay, go ahead and take a second to wrap up your final thoughts there. And I hope that you enjoyed doing that reflection. We're going to have a chance to talk about what you wrote, what that experience was like for you in a breakout in just a second. But right now, I want to prompt you to reflect on that reflection, to do a kind of meta reflection, and think, was that comfortable? Was that enjoyable? Did I have any new realizations or process anything in a novel way? Is that an experience that I want my students to have? So just take a quick second to answer some of those questions for yourself. Think about some of those questions. And then we're going to go into a breakout room. Okay, it looks like folks are landing back from the breakout rooms right now. Thank you, everybody. I hope you had some good discussion in your breakout room. We are right at time. It is 9:55 already. I just want to thank everyone for coming out this morning, for being here, for participating in all the silly ways that I've asked you to turn your camera on and off and stretch and do all these things. But thanks for joining us, and thank you to the team at CDFA for putting on this amazing conference. Thanks to all the other presenters. It's been really, really inspiring to hear from everyone so far. And thanks to Russell and Raquel and the rest of the team at Edible Schoolyard for supporting this. And thank you all for being here. Again, you can reach us learning@edibleschoolyard.org and check out our website for more resources. And with that, I'll turn it over to Nick.